This is VOCM Open Line. Call 709-273-5211 or 1-888-590-8626. The views and opinions of this program are not necessarily those of this station. The biggest conversation in Newfoundland and Labrador starts now. Here's VOCM Open Line host Paddy Daly.
Well, all right, and good morning to you. Thank you very much for tuning into the program. It's Friday, November the 21st. This is Open Line. I'm your host, Paddy Daly. David Williams producing the Come On With It edition. So, if you're in the St. John's metro region, the number to dial is 709-273-5211. Elsewhere, toll-free long distance, 1-888-590-VOCM, which is 8626. So wasn't great to watch my Montreal Canadiens get pummeled last night by the Capitals 8-4. But to watch 40-year-old Alexander Ovechkin still out there flying. 40 years of age. Last night he had a hat trick and another assist for a 4-point night. Amazing stuff. 21 games. He's got 20 points this year, including 10 goals. And here's another interesting stat regarding Ovechkin. So just recently scored his 442nd goal at the Capital One Arena, passing Gordie Howe's 441 at the Detroit Olympia, the most regular season goals scored in a single venue in NHL history. If you score 442 goals in your NHL career, you're probably going to the Hall of Fame. Ovechkin scored 442 at his home arena. It's amazing stuff. It really, truly is. Anyway, this is more local sports-related news, and this is absolutely brilliant. Jada Lee, baseball player, pitcher. You remember when she made history by, as a female, competing with the boys' baseball team at the Canada Summer Games. I think her jersey's in the Canada Baseball Hall of Fame. So last night was the inaugural draft into the Women's Professional Baseball League. And Jada Lee, first rounder, 14th overall to New York. Absolutely stellar stuff. So the women's professional baseball coming next summer, and Jada Lee will be part of it playing in New York. Man, great stuff. All right, let's keep going. More bad news for skiers and snowboarders and those who enjoy a trip to Marble Mountain. This coming snowboard season, they'll be down to just one chairlift. There are 3 out there, down to 1. The Black Marai and the Newfie Bullet will not be operating this year. The Newfie Bullet is really old, and it's hard to find parts, and they're very expensive to keep it going. The Black Marai was offline for a number of years, but I think it's been, last year was the first season since 2019. So while the province tries to offload Marble Mountain and their $1 million-ish subsidies to the operations at Marble Mountain, for skiers and snowboarders, this is a big knock. On top of the fact that the last couple of winters out there have been dismal, insofar as snow, and then it gets flooded away, and then you know the deal. It is going to be reflected in the prices, though. Riders between the ages of 16 and 21 years of age will pay $199 plus tax for an early bird pass. Those older than 21 pay $399 plus tax. That's down from $579 and $749 respectively. Those were the costs last season. Kids under Kids under 5 can ski for $20. Over 80 seniors over 80 ski for free, but just one lift at Marble, which will keep people from making the trek out there. You know, one of the best parts about skiing in Atlantic Canada, and many parts right across the country, is the relatively short lineups for the ski lift. Compared to if you go to, say, for instance, some of the notable ski hills in Europe, it's absolute loony bin. Anyway, let's keep going. Bad news for Marble. Sorry to hear that. All right, plenty of reaction coming on the 24/7 snow clearing. So one thing that's been getting some traction in my email inbox is cost. Now, when they costed it out on the campaign trail at $1.9 million, which, strange enough, were the exact same dollars saved back when Dwight Ball was the premier, and they cut some of the 24/7 snow clearing routes. Now it's going to cost them $3 million. As a taxpayer, I have no problem with an additional $1.1 million to be spent on 24/7 snow clearing and ice control. The issue for many is that it's just 14 routes. Now, look, it feels like a good start, a step in the right direction, but we've had calls and emails about, what about my area? And it's a fair question, what about your area? Is this just phase 1? I don't know. It goes on to talk about, and of course, the big one here is trying to hire 50 more operators, whether it be Jerry Earl at NAPE or others. And I heard from some people who are actually heavy equipment operators saying, unless the pay is absolutely out of this world compared to what I make in the private sector, especially when getting hired on by the province, possibly jeopardizing their job with the private sector, which comes with some summer work, that seasonal employment, it looks like that's going to be a real trick. So Barry Petton, of course, the Transport Minister, says as soon as they're staffed up, off to the races they go. But I guess that's the proof in the pudding, and that's the trick, is how quickly they can actually staff up those additional positions that are being put out there. So they go on to talk about 50 new full-time and part-time snowplow operators. I'd like to see a breakdown, and I'm sure operators would like to see a breakdown. How many of these are full-time jobs? How many of these are part-time jobs? And the 14 routes, if you have any concerns or questions on that front, and fair enough, if you want to applaud this as a step in the right direction, we can absolutely take that on as well. Here's some numbers just for context. Snow clearing is just one part of a broader readiness plan. With more than 450 seasonal heavy equipment operators, management and staff have been recalled and hired. Normal course of action. The province paid $38 million in salt and sand. It's been delivered to 67 depots. But here's some interesting numbers. The inspection and calibration of the provinces. Guess how many snowplows and loaders are in the fleet? 551. The province also buying 44 new plows to replace some aging equipment, but I'm hearing some questions about 24/7 snow clearing and the proposal of 14 routes to be in that envelope. We can absolutely take it on. I told a listener I would bring this one forward, and happy to do it. Of course, public transportation in this neck of the woods is well understood. Ridership is up, and GoBus still has some concerns coming from their riders. So apparently it's cash only. And so for folks who have disabilities, distinct types of needs, some vulnerabilities, some may be related with mental illness or what have you. So it's the catch-22, as said by the listener, the emailer, is you might need the bus to go to the bank, to go to the ATM, to get some cash to pay for GoBus. So are there other options that can be incorporated here? Because cash is not in everybody's pocket all the time. And this person's right. You might need the GoBus to go to the bank. So it's a strange setup, and I don't know if there's one way or another that this could be rectified, but apparently it's a cash-only operation. It does come with some complications. The listener asked me to put it out there. It's out there. Let's keep going. So apparently there's been a RNC officer that's been charged with breach of trust. And what's this about? Apparently the officer allegedly has gone into the wildfire evacuation zone on the 21st of August to check on or to recover some personal property. So the RNC, when they found this out, they approached the Serious Incident Response Team, and that's, of course, civilian-led police oversight agency, dealing with the more serious types of crimes accused of or alleged against RNC officers. They refused. The RCMP, they weren't interested as well. So the RNC is doing it themselves. The officer is on paid leave, faces provincial court charges on breach of trust and breach of an order made under the Emergency Services Act. And now it hasn't been proven in court, and we'll wait for that final determination. But the uniform doesn't give you the right to do what others cannot do. Because those who were evacuated who weren't members of law enforcement were forced to be outside the zone, worried about their own personal property, no access, no uniform, no badge to do what this officer is accused of. And that is not ideal, to say the least. But we'll follow through, and we'll see where that lands in the courts. But good news and I suppose welcome news. And some of the residents who have been in communication with the provincial government, those who were evacuated and many of them lost everything in the Kingston fire, they've extended the housing assistance program. Good. $1,000 per month for households who could stay in private accommodations, like if you're spending time with family or friends, whatever the case may be. And that's if your primary residence, of course, was uninhabitable. $1,500 per month if they had rent somewhere to live. So this announcement yesterday from Justice and Public Safety Minister Helen Conway-Ottenheimer, the program now to be extended until at least the 31st of March of 2026. There's 45 households available of the program, 6 more are conditionally approved. Extending the program costs around $300,000. And once again, as a taxpayer, I have no issue with this. People need these types of assists and supports. But I guess the next steps will be what kind of monies, and not because I think it's the right thing or the wrong thing, is when the province and or the feds have pledged financial support in the effort to rebuild, especially those with no insurance, of which there are many, and that's a separate conversation I guess we can entertain here on the show. Then there's the new committee. I don't know what the overlap might be and communication between the former committee that was chaired, of course, by Jamie Corab, now under Mrs. Conway Hottenheimer, and Chris Tibbs, Finance Minister Craig Pardy, Housing Minister Jody Wall. So I guess the conversations also continue with the unincorporated areas, but we're pleased to know that that housing assistance program has been extended till the end of March of 2026. And we wonder what the status is of the investigation by the RCMP in the potential for this to be all caused by arson. Let's keep going. All right. Had Susan Walsh on the program earlier this week, and I suppose a follow-up next week is required. Her most recent report, her second report into what they refer to as the key well-being indicators, and they are individual health, healthcare, finances, housing, transportation, security and protection. In the world of security and protection, crimes against seniors is up, and notably up. And I guess in some of the positive news here, the report says 88% of seniors indicated they're satisfied or very satisfied with their lives. 84% said they feel somewhat or very strong, a sense of belonging. Okay, that's up when compared to their Canadian counterparts. But here we go. The province has the highest percentage of seniors in Canada, 24.6% of the population being aged 65 or older. When it comes to access to primary care, we have the lowest percentage in the country. Susan Walsh goes on to say, we're not investing in community supports and services, especially if you look at rural. The rural need compared to the urban need is obvious. Here's another direct quote. The seniors are older. They're poorer. We really need to think about a one-size-fits-all, not the answer. Community organizations are going to be one of the keys to this. Let's get into some numbers. Compared to the other provinces and territories, seniors in this province have the lowest median income, which was $29,710 back in 2023. Also, seniors in this province have the highest dependency on the guaranteed income supplement. On that front, one of the immediate solutions that could be found there for seniors who are indeed in need, and the eligibility for the guaranteed income supplement has to increase. Because the threshold that was maybe meaningful 5 years ago is not the same today. All of our purchasing power has decreased dramatically, so we have to change the income threshold or the eligibility threshold for the guaranteed income supplement. Employment for people between 65 and 69 increased by 12% in the last 5 years, higher than the national average of 2%. And also some of these curious things that are really difficult to understand. Now, it's good that the PCs, the current government, have pledged to increase the seniors' benefit by 20%, but it's just some interesting facets of life. If you're on income support and your housing support is taken care of, when you turn 65, you lose that support. They're still poor. They still need the support. So what happens? As opposed to that money to cover home support, all of a sudden a senior who's poor, who now has to pay out of pocket for some additional home care and support, ends up in a personal care home or ends up in a long-term care facility. And what do you think that means? It costs us all more. So hopefully some solutions can be found there. And if you want to take it on, we can absolutely talk about that or anything else under the sun today. All right. I see this story. I'm not exactly sure what is going on, but we've heard about this case in the recent past, and it's about animal cruelty. It's a terrible story. All right, I'll leave her name out of it because she hasn't gone through the court process at this moment, but this lady, 44 criminal charges of causing unnecessary pain, suffering, or injury to more than a dozen farm animals, mostly goats. So when the RCMP were made aware and the complaint came forward, they went to the property and they found animals either dead, starving, or unable to walk. It's been slow walked through the court. She's now still trying to retain legal representation. And you know, I hear all the time, some people who are accused of committing these types of crimes, they don't deserve legal representation, but the fact of the matter is they do. It's one of the cornerstones of the system, whether we like it or not, but that's some pretty serious charges. Unnecessary pain, suffering, or injury. The animals were dead, starving, or unable to walk. Amazing stuff. And I guess in the world of crime and punishment, it is worth putting it back out there that the Carney Liberals did table legislation that people refer to as tough on crime. Part of it was a pledge to hire 1,000 new RCMP officers. They also talked about folks who have been charged with home evasions or violent car theft, assault, sexual assault, extortion, human trafficking, they'll have to prove they deserve bail before it's awarded. So they call that the reverse onus. Then they talk about things like consecutive sentences and what have you. I think it's welcomed across the country, but this is eventually going to be heard by the Supreme Court for a charter test. The exact same thing happened in 2011 when then Prime Minister Stephen Harper brought forward things like the judge's discretion to hand out consecutive 25-year blocks of parole ineligibility if someone's been found guilty as a repeat offender, committed multiple first-degree murders, for instance, and it got shot down by the Supreme Court. So this is going to go through the same challenge, but I think people welcome, whether or not it actually works, a tough on crime or a tougher on crime stance. All right, back to health for a second. So this is an examination through Freedom of Information requests about how many people have left emergency rooms across the country before they actually got to see a doctor. The result, some 500,000 Canadians last year left the emergency room after a long, arduous wait before even seeing the doctor. They got fed up. And then you hear emergency room doctors and nurses talk about the fact that they come back to work the next day and they see a face that they saw yesterday or the day before. And they didn't get to see a doctor, but they're back in the waiting room. In this province, the number of people leaving has almost doubled since 2019. 35,000 people walking out of the emergency rooms in this province in 2024. And the way the story is written, this is not really that important, but it's irritating. The sentence reads, 35,000 people walking out of the Maritime province in 2024. This is an Atlantic province. We're not part of the Maritimes, but 35,000 people walking out. And 500,000 people did not see the doctor before they left the emergency room in Canada last year. Whether it be labour shortages, and there's a few other reasons. Lack of family doctors, which sends people to the emergency room, but there's also the concept of boarded patients, as they call them. These are people who have been admitted to the hospital but don't have a bed up on the floor, so consequently, they're in the emergency room. So I guess it all will come back to labour shortages, because, we talk about, well, there's not a bed. It doesn't mean there's not a Sealy Posturepedic. It means that there's not enough staff to have you up on the ward, on the floor, with the required number of healthcare professionals to provide your care. So, man, that's a wild number on that front. This is back in the news, and I think we probably heard it first on this program, when a member of Canada's military called the show about his daughter, Rebecca MacDonald. She's born in this province, and her father, Tony, who was a member of the military, they left when she was quite young to go to Petawawa, then another transfer, I believe, into New Brunswick. Then they've been here since 2021, I believe it is. I'm going to get this story right. So they moved back. She was given a local residency status to apply to Memorial University, which comes with tuition complications, right? And I thought that this was going to be the same thing regarding her possibility to compete for a seat in the medical school as a local, which is different. Locals have a different set of priorities to compete for one of 81 seats versus the international pool or the rest of the world pool, of which there's only 6 seats. So to compete with the locals, it would be somewhere like 200, I'll make sure I get the right numbers, between 250 and 275 applications usually coming for these spots. To compete in the other pool, she'll be competing with 450 people for just 6 spots. This is all because of legislation. Accommodations made for the country's military and examples like this just make sense, considering the fact that Rebecca MacDonald is quite likely to want to continue to practice as a medical doctor upon graduating from Munns Medical School. So let's change the legislation. It's fair enough for whether it be the university administration or the dean of the med school to try to chime in on this, but their hands are pretty much tied. Let's get the legislation adjusted. It's as simple as that. Accommodations based on common sense are sometimes not as common as they should be, and including this particular example. And we had Tony on the show, and if there's any update available, we can do it. A couple of very quick ones before we get to you. How are we doing out there, Dave? All right. Interesting reactions to the comments I guess I made about contraband tobacco, and apparently it's extremely popular. People are buying. Why? Because they can save money. The conversation coming from law enforcement is that contraband tobacco is very likely all tied up in the hands and the profits for organized crime. You see the busts of contraband tobacco joined by illicit drugs and guns and cash and vehicles and all the rest of it. Interestingly, I know people are trying to save a dollar. I totally get it. But I don't know how many people tell me that they would say, shag it. They'd prefer their money went to organized crime than to pay all the taxes for the money to flow to the province. It's a pretty wild way to think, but anyway, lots of people chiming in on it. If you want to take it on, we can do it. I had a bunch of other things, but I will get this one out there because we know the fishery is still a big part of the province. All right. So the concern regarding the labour dispute, and it's similar back to when the tolerance issue had been removed from the crab schedule just a couple of years ago. ASP tried to change the language. This is about the crab settlement or the crab rebate money that's supposed to flow to the harvesters. It's going to arbitration. It's always quite likely that this was where it was going to land, and apparently the Premier has promised expedited arbitration on this front. So had that not been the case and they continued to struggle, there'd be no money paid out before Christmas. So at this point, apparently, the majority of the money will be paid prior to Christmas. After that, the rest will be paid sometime in the new year, but it is going to an arbitrator, an expedited form of arbitration. So that's the update on the crab settlement monies. You want to talk about that or anything under the sun, you can do it right after this. Very quickly. This lady asked me if I could put it out there. I'm happy to do it. Her 18-year-old son's car stolen at the Village Mall parking lot last night. Apparently, he just dropped his keys inadvertently before he went to the gym. Car gone. It's a white 2015 Honda Civic. License plate number is JDH968. If you see it, report to the VOCM, report to the cops. Not much I can do about it here, but report to the RNC, please. So it's a white 2015 Honda Civic, license plate number JDH968. We're on Twitter. We're VOCM Open Line. Follow us there. Email address is openline@vocm.com. When we come back, let's have a great show to wrap up the week. That means you're in the queue. The topic, up to you. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 3. Bruce, you're on the air.
Hi, Patty. How are you?
Doing okay. How about you?
Good. I know your sister quite well. Actually, I coached her in soccer. But anyway.
My sister Lisa?
That's another topic. Anyway, I've got a question for you, and probably you have an answer. But I had a court case appeal a traffic ticket. Showed up on Monday, and that was my court signed. And there was a sign on the court saying that it was closed till November 28th. And I talked to the clerk who was coming in, and she said, well, sir, we haven't notified. I said, you didn't. So anyway, I phoned to the provincial court and asked the person there that I was talking to, and I said, so what happens? I mean, I've missed my court date. And she said, sir, it would be on VOCM or some other news network. I said, well, not necessarily. I listen to VOCM. And so I said, when do I find out my court date, my new court date? And she said, well, that will be sent to you. So I said, really? I said, so the I guess what I'm saying is the cancellation, if I didn't listen to VOCM, I would know about it.
We're a pretty good source, but yeah, things are rescheduled automatically if it's through no fault of your own, that you can't present yourself on the court date. There's, there's things like bench warrants and the like, but of course it's not a criminal matter. This is a challenge of a traffic ticket. No. So yeah, you'll simply be rescheduled automatically. But just so I understand exactly what the court officer said, is that the only way for you to have found out that the court was closed is to listen to VOCM? Is that what you told me?
Yep, exactly. That's what she told me. And I shook my head. I said, not necessarily I'm going to be on the radio 24/7. And I said, number one, is that I did not want to, let's say I missed this court date, and then all of a sudden I'm fined again, something like that. So I said, I thought I would get some kind of a notification or even an email stating that the court date was changed. But I guess the system really sucks.
Yeah. Now, I don't know the answer to this question, but at the Provincial Court of Newfoundland and Labrador, where you can check the docket and the status of the court being open or closed, does that include traffic court? I don't know.
I don't know either. I mean, no, I don't know. I don't know.
Do you mind me asking what kind of traffic ticket we're talking about? I'm just curious.
Oh, it was a little fender bender.
Okay.
And basically what I did, I got out and looked at the car, and the lady in front of me, I was parking, and I said, "Yeah, there's no damage." She said, "No, there's no damage." So I went on, and then I found out that I drove away without showing my license, I guess my registration and insurance. And anyway, I said, "Okay, very good." So I said, "I'm appealing that because there was no accident." So anyway, that's and the basic was failure to show my insurance.
Fair enough. I mean, the court officer should know this, and now that I'm just racking my brain a little bit, the court docket website does indeed give you the status of small claims, traffic, and the criminal courts. And that web address is docket.court.nl.ca.
Docket.court.ca?
Docket.
Or .nlc.
That's right.
Yeah.
.nl.ca.
Okay. Yeah, okay. And I can do, okay. Again, as you know, I didn't know that. As an average citizen, I thought I wouldn't know that.
Now, some people peruse it all the time just to see whose name is on the docket facing whatever type of charge. But you can indeed check the status of the court being open. And yes, you can indeed see who's on the criminal docket. But yeah, it's docket.court.nl.ca.
Okay. And maybe a week before my court date, I should have probably checked that if I'd known.
Oh, I'm not trying to lecture. I'm just trying to give out some information.
No. No, I just that was a thought to myself, and said, okay, that would be one way that I didn't have to show up there.
Yeah, so there's a bit of info for the listeners and yourself into the future. Just out of curiosity, once again, drop me an email with the outcome of your challenge.
The outcome, I will do that because anyway, I can say all I want, but it's my word against someone else's, you know.
Yeah. That's
but
again,
I was the one that found the police and told them come by right away to look at my car, and they did. And I said, "There's no damage." And anyway, but he said, "I got to do it, sir." I said, "Okay, very good. Well, we'll just see it in court. Small ticket, but you know something? It's just a principle. That's for me, anyway."
Totally get it.
Yeah. Anyway, sir, thank you for taking your time to listen to an old fellow talk.
I appreciate you making time for the show. Stay in touch, Bruce.
Okay, thanks, Pat.
You're welcome. Bye-bye. And also, of course, youth-facing charges will not appear on the docket for the obvious reasons of privacy and what have you. But yeah, I'm sure I can't click that line off. Dave, can you help me out with line 3? I know what's going on. I just got a spinning wheel. Ain't technology great? And, mention that, little bump into another car and no damage, and so consequently the drivers all go on their merry way. Pretty lucky, because it doesn't take much to suffer some pretty significant damage and consequently pretty significant repair costs. Does it? I mean, some of the way that the vehicles are built and the materials used, boy, oh boy, it doesn't take much to write off a vehicle these days. Let's get a break in. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 2. Patrick, you're on the air.
Howdy, Patty. Just trying to get some idea if anybody knows or if Tony Wakeham has said anything yet of what his plans for independent analysis of the MOU is going to be.
Short answer is no.
Anyway, my comment on it is this should not be, it was said to be independent before under the Liberals. but we all know that, it was political involvement, people that they had chose or whatever. Tony should look, in my opinion, to go international with this. Get experts from out there, Brazil, China, India, whoever the top people are out there in evaluating this. Because my fear is Tony is just trying to get this to die on the table, and if there is an independent analysis, it's just going to be some insiders who have no experience, nothing, someone like a Sean Skinner or someone, top people in the party.
I don't think it's going to be that, to be honest with you, Patrick. It just won't pass the smell test. I think it'd be a self-inflicted wound if Premier Wakeham, blatantly picked someone.
I totally agree with you there, but I can see that happening, politically. I can see him doing it, but I totally agree with what you're saying. Yes.
Just a couple of quick comments, though. I asked Premier Wakeham those specific questions here on this program. He said to me, these will not be political appointees. He's looking for a company, an organization, someone with some background and some horsepower in utilities and these types of level of contracts.
Exactly. And that's what I'm saying. He may need to go international to do that.
I think the most important part is not only the experience and the track record, and what's going to be extremely tricky here is to try to find an organization, you can pick one, Power Advisory, JP Morgan Chase or Goldman Sachs, without any conflict of interest, that have done any business with this province, the province of Quebec, with Newfoundland Labrador Hydro, with Hydro Quebec. I mean, they're pretty big and long tentacles from Hydro Quebec in particular, so picking someone that hasn't had dealings that they've benefited from or profited from with Hydro Quebec is going to be tricky.
That's one of the reasons, too, for my suggestion of you may need to go outside of not just the country, outside of North America, to get true independence. Because yes, getting someone in North America with any of these corporations, as you mentioned with your finance and other stuff, or hydroelectric or anything. Getting someone who hasn't dealt with Hydro-Quebec is extremely difficult.
Yeah,
extremely. And we have had a limited, not to get a deal done. I don't know what your opinion. I think, even if something will eventually get done. But there's let's bring it out there. To be honest, the current premier, unless something happens, he's not likely going to get back elected in Quebec. So it's coming down to an election in Quebec and pressure on them to get a deal done now before that election. Whether that helps us or hinders us, your opinion on that is as good as mine.
Well, I don't think we even need to have opinions on the Quebec timeline, because it's pretty clear to me. Legault and his party, the Coalition Devonair, they're done. They're going to get smoked in the upcoming election. The polls have had them.
That's my opinion. They don't stand much of a chance.
They don't stand any chance. As the polls currently stand today, and people can take the polls with a grain of salt, but the trajectory, they are the bottom of the pile. They might get shut out. The Parti Québécois, who very much look like that they're going to win the next election, at this moment anyway, their leader has said that he's walking away from this in full. Now, people can like that or loathe that particular issue, but that's exactly what the Quebecers are saying about it. And you talk about politics of it all. It's an interesting story in the media today regarding an interview with Hydro-Quebec CEO Claudine Bouchard. She says, my personal view on it is that I'm really confident because it's a very good deal for them and a very good deal for us. But the most interesting comment from her, she says, this is a commercial agreement that we made, not a political agreement. I mean, that sounds about right, but that's a little bit Pollyanna. And that's not about her being a woman, obviously, because the politics were going to play an active role in this regardless. But she's right. This is a commercial agreement, but it is very much a political issue. No doubt about it.
No doubt about it. No doubt. No doubt to anyone there. And exactly that. That's the point or the reason I'm saying, like, limited timeline, whether that affects things or not, is because, yes, the other party, they've clearly come out and said, we don't. We like here in Newfoundland, we're saying, well, is this the best deal for us? On the other side, Quebec, this new party is saying they're not getting the deal that they want, and they're walking away from it.
Yep, the Parti Québécois have been pretty clear on that. I can't remember the leader's name at this moment in time.
Yes, they've been pretty clear saying that they don't think that this is the deal that they want. So, it'll be interesting. The other thing I think is has to happen here is right now, if this deal becomes a definitive agreement, it is the same as Churchill Falls. If we ever have any issues with it, if anything ever happens, it's settled in the court of Quebec.
No, it's not.
Take that out of there. We need this agreement, if there is an agreement. It needs to be signed in some independent place, because I don't think Quebec is going to agree to sign it in Newfoundland.
No, but
it needs to be that we go to an independent panel.
That's not the case, though. The MOU is pretty clear. Any legal challenges will be held in a court in Ontario. So not Newfoundland, Labrador, not Quebec, which I think is pretty important, because all the...
I read it was going to be Quebec, Patty, so thanks for the correction on that.
It's Ontario, which I think is a helpful first step, because all the court challenges...
Exactly, yes.
All the court challenges that we lost every single time were in Quebec. What did we think was going to happen?
Bingo, bingo under the O. Exactly. You were challenging them in Quebec. What was going to happen?
Nothing. We lost every time. I think it was 7 straight.
Yes, something like that, 6 or 7 straight. Anyway, thanks, Patty. The other one out there, I'll just throw one final thing if seeing you not saying I have to go to break. In an agreement, what is your opinion? Because my opinion would be a sign of good faith by Quebec is throw us. You made billions and billions and billions on this 1969 deal. 6, 7, 8, 10 times or more what we've made. Throw us a bone, and we need it. We need money to pay down the debt here in Newfoundland big time. Is part of this of an agreement should be an upfront payment, not related to this MOU and new agreements or anything, just a payment of $2 million, $5 million, payment of so many, not millions, sorry, billions of dollars.
I was going to say.
As a payment down front, as a sign of good faith, let's call it.
Yeah, now if you had posed that question to someone working at Hydro-Quebec, they'd say, well, the good faith payment is an average of $1 billion between now and 2041, adding up to $17 billion. And I mean, I'm not justifying whether or not this is the best deal possible. That's what we hear from the province of Quebec and Hydro-Quebec. Whether or not people like it or loathe it, once again, I'll leave that up to the individual. Patrick, anything else quick before I do have to go to the break?
No, that's it, Patty. Just one comment. All the best to Alex Newhook. It's pretty shameful what happened, but that's part, I guess, of the sport you play in. But I mean, he was finally getting his confidence, finally playing on a great line with 2 other great players that matched his skill sets. It's a real shame what happened, because he was just coming into himself. If you understand what I mean by that comment. I do.
He was playing great. He really was. He was reliable and consistent. He made a couple of mistakes. He coughed up a bad one in overtime one game, but then he came back to score the winner.
He finally was given a role by the team. He said, look, play on the penalty kill. I want you to do this on. He finally had a place on the team, too, that he knew what his job and what was expected of him.
He's playing well.
It's a shame, because he's likely out for the full season. Maybe remote chance of the playoffs. But all the best to him and his family. Hopefully it doesn't impact things, because anybody who's had these knows ankle injury. You know, it affects mobility. It affects your speed going forward.
Right.
It's a hard injury to recover from.
Appreciate the time, Patrick. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye. I mean, like everyone who's ever played anything, I suppose you don't even have to have been an athlete. You'd rather break something than tear ligaments every day of the week. It's that high ankle sprain is worse than a fractured ankle. Right? I mean, repairing the bones is a much speedier recovery than those high ankle sprains and tearing ligaments and what have you. Just a couple of very quick ones. You know, people ask me why we're not talking about defense spending, especially on the F-35s or the Gripen and what's the right one. I mean, some of that's a little bit over my head. But people keep telling me that this argument made by U.S. quote-unquote diplomat Pete Hoekstra about until we commit to buying all 88 F-35s, we're not going to see trade negotiation continue, which is extortion and it's ridiculous. Just for clarity, Ambassador Hoekstra, and for some other pundits I see out there, the actual fact of the matter is the country has signed a contract to buy 16 F-35s at a determined price. The remainder up to 88 is an agreement in principle with no assigned price. So it's not a signed contract to buy any more than 16, which I think the country has already said we're going to buy them. And as to whether or not we should buy the Gripens and have a mixed fleet, whatever works best, whatever provides the best military component and is financially manageable, I suppose that's probably the right thing to do. Let's get a break in. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's go. Line number 1. Al, you're on the air.
Good morning, Paddy. How you doing, boy?
Doing okay. How about you?
Not too bad, but not too bad. Just got another update for you, Pat, about the Artesian Wells in St. Bride's or whatever with the council, the ex-council, I should say. But it's, Paddy, but since the last day I talked to you about it, I'll be honest with you, it's even worse than the last day I talked to you about it. A bigger disgrace to the people and the residents of the community that supported that council for so many years. I tell you what, none of them wells now, as we speak today, them 4 wells, none of them wells for St. Bride's any good for the residents of St. Bride's to get clean drinking water. And, well, one of them is too, I'm still doing my homework, like I told you the last time, and I was going to reach out to Sherry Gamlin Welch, which I did, and I must say she got back to me. She was in a meeting yesterday. And man, oh man, what they're capable of doing with between municipal affairs and the ex-council, it's just unbelievable what they're willing and trying to capable to do. They're even willing to, they're going to maybe come back out again and test the water out of that well. And that was the one was going to be used in the ex-mayor's property. It's right down, drilled down in the middle of a contaminated dump that he literally dumped from the harbour for years, contaminated material. Well, I'll tell you, Paddy, the material that's in it, it's so bad that the last time we had dredging, I was the president of the harbour authority, we dredged almost this spring, it'll be 9 years, and the material that's up on that well site is so bad that it's down in our harbour now, as we speak, since 2017, cannot go nowhere. It cannot be hauled nowhere to a dump. It's too hot, too toxic. So that is the material where he put a well down. He broke every law in the provincial government regarding to rules and regulations. And if the well company was told that, or was told that they broke every rule, they were supposed to have permit to go there from the Minister of Municipal Affairs. Nothing was supposed to be touched on that property unless it was a walk-through assessment and tested and everything before anybody was to drill. And the drill company just went up there and they had no proof of who owned it, no property in St. Bride's. It was all supposed to be under the town, registered to the provincial government as the town, and none of it was all private property. And one well, the person that gave permission, what I'm hearing, he don't have no papers on the property. So it's the biggest disgrace that ever went on with, it's unreal the way it went for to be said to get on and go brag about I was 38 years on council and I want to continue doing what I'm doing, to go and take the community hall was gone, that was destroyed, and then to go take the wells, the money for the provincial government that Sherry Gamlin Welch fought for us, the people here to get from the provincial government, then to go take it and put it on one on his property and the other on his brother's property, and that well is no good. It's okay. I talked to Municipal Affairs and Environment yesterday. That well on his brother's property is good for 1 or 2 houses. It's no good for the community. So what in the name of God are we dealing with out there at all?
It sounds like a farce to me.
It's unreal, Pat, but I'll tell you one thing. There's a lot of questions not answered yet, but I'll tell you one thing, that you got to keep going. 8 different offices I'm talking to now, and the last place I was talking to yesterday was up in Cornerbrook, and 7 was in St. John's. But I'll tell you one thing, that Mr. Keith Martin is the Municipal Affairs and Environment. He's the new guy now, supposed to be actually over. So if you wanted to, you could reach out to him on our behalf and see what he got to say about it. He was into the meeting yesterday. I don't know what went down in the meeting. I wasn't talking to Sherry or none of them yet. But I do know there's an awful disgrace what is going on. I mean, to go try to give the people the last of their days, mostly seniors out here now, the last of their days, well, if I have to give you well water, in other words, I'll give you contaminated water. 38 years drinking bog and beaver piss, and now when we had a chance of getting clean, safe drinking water, we're going to try to give you beaver or contaminated water. The stuff is in that paddy is right to arsenic. Literally arsenic, because that's why the stuff is down in our pool.
Wait now. So the tests, actual scientific tests of the water says it's riddled with arsenic?
It's arsenic in it and a few more wicked chemicals also. And what would you... I talked to one fellow this morning. He wasn't even working. He answered his cell phone. And he said, why in the name of God would you even think and consider yourself to go and destroy money? Well, forget about the money. To go put a well down through the middle of a dump. You've got to be 60 metres, Paddy, away from a dump. And then you still got to cap, if the water is good, when you drill it, 60 metres, roughly, give or take 200 feet. I'm doing my homework on it. And then it's got to be kept with a certain tight, different thing altogether than a regular well out in the middle of the wilderness, not handy to a dump or nothing. And then, and only then, can it be done by the minister. It was 200 feet away from a dump, not down to the middle of a dump. Like that was 20 feet for years. That contaminated material in that on that harbour or land was from the harbour was probably 20 to 30 feet in the air to settle down, rotten bog and sand and you name it, fish guts and everything and anything. All turns into arsenic. It's common sense. That's what it is, because our harbour is rich in arsenic, and that's why the stuff is down there, not allowed to go nowhere. The last stuff went out of our harbour, Paddy. They gave the so-called ex-mayor $40,000 to haul it to Green Hill, and the rest of it cannot go. We stopped the job, there was no tenders, and when we stopped it, oh no, the rest of this can't go now. It's got to stay there. It was too high. He told me, Albert, it's too highly taxed and stuff. Got to stay there. So we never hauled it away first or last. But finishing off, and then I'll let you go. I know you're busy. He was 30 years as the mayor of St. Bride's and hauled every bit of land that he wanted to drop it in St. Bride's and put it east, west, north and south all over the community. And it's up by my sisters. It was literally a disgrace, to say the least. He was, for years, just dumped it, absolutely. He must give the permission to the people to go ahead because he was the mayor. He really thought he owned the community when he was the mayor. And I talked to a council member now that was on the council with him, and that member knew nothing about where the wells went and can't get over it, where he put the wells. It's unbelievable. Like they said, that person said to me, it's unbelievable to say he be game enough to... we knew nothing about it. Well, I said, Mrs. And the men and the women, ye are, believe it or not, ye are a part of the old council. But we did not know about it. We were never told nothing. He done what he wanted to do with it. So there's a lot of answers. Somebody get talked to a lot of people before this is over, Betty. I'm sure Gavin Welch is still working on it as we speak.
Okay, that's the update. I do have to get going though, Al, but I appreciate your time.
Right on. Thanks a lot, buddy.
You're welcome. Bye-bye. All right, let's get to the news. Don't go away. Welcome back to the program. Let's go to line number 6. Say good morning to the Executive Director at Youth or Young Adult Cancer Canada. Yeah, Jeff Eaton. Jeff, you're on the air.
Hey, dude. How are you, man?
Doing good, man. I get so used to calling it YAC that I sometimes forget what the acronym means.
Hey, YAC works great for us.
Okay, cool, man.
Listen, I'm glad I could catch you today. Huge day in the life of YAC as we are hours away from the 4th Energy Shave for the Brave. At lunchtime today, 7 energy leaders in our province are going to get the most powerful haircut of their life. Something you know all about.
I do.
And Mark Collett, CEO of Crosby, continues to lead this effort. We have got a record-setting effort this year, which is just making a huge impact on the YAC programming and community that we are able to build and support young adults dealing with cancer across Newfoundland and Labrador and across the country. So I want to call and just say a huge extra thanks to all of the shavers. We got Shelley and Jennifer and Kirk and Dennis and Jeff and Torre and Minister Lloyd Parrott getting his haircut today. And Mark Collett is the champion behind this whole thing, and we're just so grateful for all of them and all the sponsors stepping up today.
And bravo to all hands doing it. You know, there is a leap of faith when you go ahead and shave your head if it's not something that you normally do. And you always refer to it as the most powerful haircut you'll ever receive. And it's absolutely demonstrably true. As someone who's done it, it is an experience because it's not just about the hair. It's about what it represents and about the work that's going to be done by you and the folks at Yak right across the country. Because until you came to be, there was plenty of focus and supports for children with cancer, plenty of supports for adults, you know, well into their adult years that have a diagnosis of cancer. Young adults starting off with their family life, graduating from university, just getting their legs under them, then to face this diagnosis. The supports weren't there, so Yak has really filled a critical gap.
Yeah, thanks, Patty. It is, by accident, really. When we got started, we just wanted to do something to help with an experience that we'd had. And then as we got into it, we kind of realized, man, there's no big brothers or sisters out there that we can partner up with or connect with. So that's really why we have been focused on filling that gap, is because, 25 years ago when we started, nobody really even talked about or thought about young adults getting cancer. And they certainly did then. And unfortunately, more of them are getting it now, man. We're up to 9,000 a year in newly diagnosed young adults. And as you just said, they just got such unique challenges, right? Cancer is a big challenge any stage of life, no question. And for young adults, it's just different because of our stage of life. And that's why the Energy Shape of the Brave is so important. It gives us the fuel and literally the power to go and reach out, connect, grow this community, and to continue to support it every day. So huge thanks for everybody involved in supporting today, and for your shave in the past and your kind words today, man. It's a team effort for sure, and we're so grateful to still be doing this work 25 years later.
Yeah, good on you. Can you give us some idea what kind of funds have been raised with this 7 shaves today?
We're over 300 grand. We're going to have a reveal at the event, but we're over 300 grand. It's the biggest energy shave we've had to date. It's absolutely incredible. The shavers themselves have rallied, raising a bunch of money. Mark Collett is the quarterback of this thing, and he and his network in the energy industry across the province. Like they were supporting Yak long before this energy shave, but this has really taken it to the next level. And I know Yak is not alone on that. There's literally hundreds of charities, I'm sure, all across the province that have been impacted by this industry and its philanthropic spirit, and it's certainly helping us change more lives. And we're
give us the where the wins, and are the public able to come and cheer on the shavers?
Yeah, sorry, we're sold out today, so it's
okay.
We can't access, but there will be lots of social content. Shape for the Brave is on all the main platforms, as is Young Adult Cancer Canada, and hopefully, I'm sure you're going to see images from the shavers as they share and post after, because we'll have some obviously beautiful before pics and some really fun after pics too when the haircuts are done.
Good luck to all hands today, and thank you to them for their contributions, and really appreciate all the work you've done over the last 25 years, Jeff. Thanks for your time this morning.
You're a champ. Thanks, Patty. Take care, gang.
You too, pal. Bye-bye. Bye. Jeff Eaton, the Executive Director at Young Adult Cancer Canada. Yeah, look, I mean, no big deal that I did it. Jeff and I spoke, and he eventually convinced me to do it. But I did it with my son. I did it with Jack. And we did it in front of a sold-out crowd down at what was then Mile 1 Centre. It was a pretty wild experience. Because if anybody knows me, I kind of like my hair. Let's keep going. Line number 3. Colleen, you're on the air.
Hi, good morning, Patty.
Morning to you.
I have a announcement I hope you'll be able to help me with. Last night my grandson went to the gym at the Village Mall. Now, he just finished high school in July and went right into college in September, so we got him a car and, helping him get through his course fast. And he must have dropped his keys on the way into the gym, and when he came back out, his car was gone. And it was a 2015 Honda Civic, white, 4 doors, license plate JDH968.
Yeah, and I put it out for you off the top of the program as well, so hopefully that gets a few eyeballs scanning around at any white Civics they see today. If the license plate is as Colleen has described, please call the RNC.
Thank you so much.
Happy to help. Fingers crossed. Let me know if this works out.
I will so. Thanks again. Have a good day.
The same to you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah. And so, every now and then, this is just one of these friendly reminders. It doesn't matter if I bring it up. If it's something that you want to talk about, we can do it. And there was one question as to why I didn't do X, Y, and Z. And in this case, it was referred to some performative politics in the House of Commons yesterday by one of the Conservative members, Stephanie Kessie. So we do know that there was an announcement yesterday that the country has secured a new partnership on defence and economic relationships or partnerships with Sweden. Some of that conversation can extend into things like the Gripen aircraft and Saab committing to build all those aircrafts in this country, which is an interesting conversation. But this one particular Conservative member stood up, and it was quite the rant, I have to say, about how it's apparently un-Canadian or anti-Canada for the Prime Minister to be overseas. You can think what you want of Mark Carney, but I don't know how travelling to try to do business with other countries is somehow all of a sudden anti-Canadian. Would the same comment be offered if he was in Washington, D.C.? Probably not. So we know he's in the UAE, the United Arab Emirates. People may have concerns about the allegations of the UAE funding paramilitary operations in Sudan, but they're also home to some of the largest sovereign wealth funds in the world. So it's a reason why he's there. And of course, then on the way to the G20, which is in South Africa. So it's hard to understand how we don't want, whether it be Stephen Harper or Mark Carney or any Prime Minister of any stripe, not to be travelling abroad to try to, in this circumstance, to try to secure new partnerships. And we can talk about MOUs, whether or not they ever manifest themselves to actual investment in the country. But to not try to diversify our trading partners at this very unique moment in history seems that would be the bad idea, wouldn't it, as opposed to travel? And if you get a chance, you can find it maybe on YouTube or something. It is quite the hysterical rant, that's one thing for sure. And it doesn't matter if it's a man or woman offering it, because we see plenty of performative politics coming from men as well. Of course we do. Let's get a break in. When we come back, Dennis is there to talk about recycling. Then you, don't go away. Welcome back. Let's go. Line number 2. Dennis, you're on the air.
Good morning, Paddy.
Morning.
I got about 25 bags of recycles. I used to have a license, but I lost my license for medical reasons, so I got no way of getting them. So if anybody's welcome, they can have them, right?
So where are you?
I'm in St. John's.
Okay, you're in St. John's. And so
I can just leave my phone number that somebody can call me if you like.
Sure, you can just leave it with David. We have it.
Okay, so they can call them and they can give me a call. I just throw them up by the fence if somebody comes to get them, right?
Okay, so I'm sure somebody's going to be willing to take them and cash them in and put a few bucks in their pocket. Do you want any money for it, or you just want them out of the house?
No, I just want them out of my yard now.
That sounds about right to me. So, folks, if anyone would like to cash in on some 20, 25 bags worth of recycling products, Dennis is your man. We have his number, so if you call David, we'll set you up. How's that?
Thanks very much. Appreciate it.
My pleasure, Dennis. All the best.
Okay.
All right, bye-bye. I've brought this one up in the past, but I'll do it again. It gets me in a bit of hot water, and just take this for how it's intended. And it's not about judging a book by its cover. But when we put out a recycling, there used to be, you'd see some people who you would think are maybe down on their luck, pushing around a shopping cart or some other type of cart and going through the recycling to take what they can that they can cash in over at Evergreen or whatever the case may be. I never had a problem with it. Why would I? I think it's a different conversation when we talk about how some other people are going through the recycling. For instance, there's this one fellow who does the perusing on garbage day and recycling day in our neighborhood. And this is going to get me in hot water. It's one thing when you can kind of guess that someone is really in need and putting in some effort to try to get some money for whatever the case may be. This guy has a brand spanking new, top-of-the-line Chevy SUV. Beautiful machine. And I got a funny feeling that I'm chipping in on somebody's car payments or on his travel or what have you. I don't know if it rubs anybody else the wrong way, but it kind of does irritate me, I have to say. Again, someone could get mad at me if they're so inclined, but we can talk about it if you're interested in it. read an interesting article in Upstream. It's an oil and gas magazine. It's about Beta Nord. You know, there's been a very recent update and workshops conducted by Equinor about some of the supply chain issues as they continue to proceed to potential final investment decision. And yes, for my friends at the board, benefits agreements and some other framework agreements that are yet to be finalized. And this is about the possibility, as so says the author, and I'm not agreeing or disagreeing with them, I'll just put it out there for conversation, is what is the risk of overplaying our hand regarding Beta Nord? It's our oil. We all know that to be true. There's also the concept of the fact that, you know, the most recent exploration, whether it be by Sinopec or ExxonMobil, they came up dry. No commercially viable hydrocarbons. So the only field out there for potential production at this moment in time is Beta Nord. And of course it's not just one well, it'll be some 42 wells, and all the subsea tiebacks will be required. And that work will be done here, so says Equinor. But it's the reliance or the leaning in on topsides work. So, like Trades NL say, some 68% of that work could and should be done here. The last time we did extensive topsides work from start to finish was Marystown about 20 years ago for the White Rose expansion, or for the White Rose. So the author goes on to say is, what happens if Beta Nord, with all of the different discoveries that they're sitting on, all the different projects that are deciding whether or not they want to put their investment dollars in, is something that they are going to just say, look, I'm not fighting that particular fight about jobs and benefits agreements, so maybe, just maybe, we'll move on to other projects. This is the author saying this in pretty clear terms here. And he goes on to assert that Equinor really holds a lot of the cards here, given the fact, as I just said, it's the only development out there that's been identified and worked towards final investment decisions and the potential for production. Goes on, and you can take that for what, however you hear it. Goes on to make another particularly important point. And this is for the future of the industry here, whether or not you think there's a future or not. Here's what he goes on to say. He says, bizarrely, the province's legislation allows oil companies to sit on, in perpetuity, significant discovery licenses that could be commercialized if transferred to other players. But instead of addressing an issue that would would stimulate investment and local jobs, the federal and provincial authorities sit on their hands. Maybe these licenses hold trillions of cubic feet of mainly associated gas in Newfoundland waters and trillions of cubic feet of non-associated gas off Labrador. Pretty important point. You know, I mean, we do have a base understanding of the CNLOPB land sales, and no bidders, no takers again this year. But holding land for, as this author says, in perpetuity is probably a terrible idea. I mean, there might be other active players, maybe even more junior players, that think they can make a buck, whether it be on the amount of oil that's found and or the substantial finds and discovery of gas, associated and non-associated gases off our shores. So it's an interesting point that they make here. I think it's akin, and again, these are just points to provoke conversation. So that's the Beta Nord issue. And this author says that we might indeed scare off an investment decision if there's going to be that staunch position taken. It's one thing for Trades NL, quite another for the Premier. And I asked Premier Wakeham directly here about walking away in full if Equinor is unwilling to do the work that we think can be done, whether it be a bull arm or otherwise. One thing. How do we square a circle about the MOU? Because whether anybody thinks it's a good deal or a bad deal, like I hear from plenty of people that think, you know, it's either wait till 2041 or just walk away right now in full, and we'll see what the future holds. The politics of it is an interesting facet. The timeline associated with Premier Wakeham's independent review and then consequently a binding referendum, yet to be fully understood. But no matter what we think of the deal, in Quebec, it is very clear what the future holds. Legault and his party are done. The Parti Québécois are poised to win. The Parti Québécois leader has said that they're out. They are walking away in full. Now, whether that's just some nonsensical pressure tactic to encourage negotiations more to the favour of Hydro-Quebec and the province of Quebec, I'll leave that up to you. But that's a thing. And how do we incorporate that conversation and or other projects, including wind, which Legault has just announced about $4.5 billion into a new onshore wind program. So how do we incorporate all of these moving parts into these particular conversations? your position on it is welcome. You can best do it on the phone, but if you want to do it during email or what have you, let's do that. Line number 2, Mike, you're on the air.
Yes, sir. How are you doing this morning?
Not too bad, I suppose. How about you?
Good. I heard a conversation there that time about recycling.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm 100% for it. What I do with my recyclables in the town of Torbay, I give it to a friend of mine who has an autistic child, and he puts it and recycles it into his child's account.
Excellent home for it.
And that's it. Like, I recycle, he comes, he picks them up, he puts it in, and he counts them, and he does it all, and everything is 100%.
Yeah, I mean, remember back in the day, we'd be playing minor hockey or whatever the case may be. Recycling drives were all the rage. We were at it all the time, going door to door, looking for people's beer bottles to bring back to raise some money for what we were up to. But yeah, if you can find a specific home for recycling, and in this case, your friend, your neighbour, go ahead, Mike.
I give them my beer bottles and everything too, but I know that it's going into his autistic child's account for later in the days when they're going to need it.
Yeah, good for you. That's a nice home for your recycling money. Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's it. I said, here, take the beer bottles, take the recyclables, take it all.
Yeah, good for you. I mean, we don't have a whole lot of beer bottles in the house, but I tell you what, we'd go around with our parents' pickup trucks or whatever could carry the bottles, and you'd make scads of money if you put in a full Saturday doing beer bottle recycling runs around the community. So good for you for making that decision, though, Mike. I'm sure your neighbour is quite appreciative.
Them days are over.
Yeah, there we go.
I did it years ago.
Oh yeah,
bottle drives years ago. Them days are over.
Apparently so, because man, oh man, I know minor sports fundraising is a real task. Some parents who have the capacity, when the raffles come, they just buy all the tickets. But man, oh man, the going door to door selling tickets and working bingos and bottle drives, they were endless.
They're gone.
For the most part, it seems to be the case, yeah.
No, they're history. You can't go. You don't go door to door no more. You don't sell newspapers no more. You don't Well, we did. You did, and I did years ago at the ball field, at the hockey, or anywhere else. Raise money, get a few dollars to buy a bicycle.
Yeah, fair enough, or buy whatever. Mike, good on you for doing it. I appreciate the time. Anything else you want to say?
Anyway, no, I just gives it all back to a friend of mine who got an autistic child, and he told me that he puts it into his autistic child's bank account. Good spot for it. Mike, appreciate you doing it, and thanks for calling. God bless. Take care. You too, pal. Bye-bye. Yeah. All right. So what was I going to say? It was the bingos. It was working the bingos, swapping out the cards and selling the pull tickets. And, for the recycling drives these days, it basically works a little differently than just unsolicited door-to-door, is the parents of the young players will contact their friends and their family to see if there's anyone that wants to make a donation of any recyclables. So they have more of an assigned route versus they just banging on doors unprovoked or unsolicited on a Saturday afternoon. Worked a lot of bingos. All right, here. So someone else wants to get the license plate number one more time for this stolen white 2015 Honda Civic 4-door. License plate number JDH 968. That's JDH 968. Let's get to the break. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. It's either this week or next week is Family Dispute Resolution Week. Join us on line number 1 to talk about an upcoming information session is Bill English. Good morning, Bill. You're on the air.
Morning, Paddy. How are you?
Doing okay this morning. How about you?
Great. Paddy, thank you for giving us the time. I belong to a group that has been working now for a couple of years to promote other ways of dealing with family disputes other than or in addition to the courts. The people involved with the group, including myself, have long experience with seeing people go through what happens when there's a separation, a divorce, or some other dispute about property or children. And what we came to realize is that a lot of people didn't know about this alternative way of dealing with it, which we call family dispute resolution. Some people refer to it as mediation. So that's what I wanted to talk about for a few minutes today.
Let's do it. Where would you like to start?
Well, first of all, we are having events next week. This is our first annual Family Dispute Resolution Week. The one that I think might be of most interest is a public information session, and that's taking place in St. John's on Tuesday evening, 7 o'clock to 8:30, and we're holding it at the Hampton Inn on Stavanger Drive in St. John's. We're going to basically have people there, some lawyers, mediators, and others, and myself, who will answer any questions and explain a little bit about what mediation is, how it works, who does it, when you can access it, all that kind of thing. Because we are really concerned when we look at who's going through these things, first of all, about how stressful it is, how very difficult. If you know anybody who's ever gone through it, everybody's an amateur at it. Nobody prepares for that. And of course, it's also can be extremely expensive if you get into a protracted court matter. So we're trying basically to promote this idea, increase awareness of it, and give people some avenues to go to. I could say a few things about mediation. The first thing is it's voluntary. So it's something that people would have to choose to do. It's private. It's confidential. We make it safe, and there are various ways that that's done. But some of them we can talk about on Tuesday night. And, of course, we use trained neutral mediators, and some of those will be there as well to talk to people. We believe, from our experience, that this is a less costly and difficult way to settle your issues, whether it be about children, property, support, all those kinds of things. So that's what we're trying to achieve.
And it sounds like a very helpful session. Insofar as the upside of mediation versus going to court with your lawyer, outside of financial, what would the upsides of mediation be?
Well, for many people, the privacy is a big deal.
Okay.
Privacy and confidentiality, because this doesn't take place in a courtroom. It takes place usually in a private office, a boardroom, with a trained mediator who does this kind of work. And so that is a big advantage. There are many things that are said in courtrooms, and I have lots of experience of that in various roles, that really you don't want to be saying before a bunch of strangers. It's hard enough to say it sometimes, even in a private setting. So that's one of the big things. It's faster because right now the courts are so overwhelmed. I have experience in pretty well all the courts of the province in one role or another, and they're all doing as much as they can. They're working as hard as they can, but the caseload is enormous. I mean, 30% of Canadian marriages do not last, and that means all these things had to be dealt with. But Patty, there's another group too that's very important that we often forget about, and that's about the parents who have children but really don't have much history together. You don't have to have history together to have a child. And so they don't have a history of working things out. They need help. So really what this is we're talking about a way of negotiating with a trained, neutral person helping you, but not necessarily inside court. So that's the advantage, and we hope it'll be less costly. The experience of our mediators, we can talk about this on Tuesday night, the experience of our mediators is this is faster and much less expensive than anything normally that happens in a courtroom.
Dividing financial assets is one thing, and it can obviously become quite contentious, but nothing quite like parental custody and or parental visitation or arrangements, whatever the right word is. So So insofar as mediation goes, how are things regarding custody enforced? Because for many people, they think in their mind's eye that it needs court orders to ensure and to dictate what the custody looks like or what parental visitation arrangements look like. So how would a mediator ensure that something that comes out the end can be enforced?
Patty, that's a great question. Under our court rules, any agreement between the parties that's signed by them can be registered with the court as a court order. You have to go into the court at the end of the process to do it. Not every situation does need a court order, but you're quite correct. There are some that are a little more complex, and perhaps there's a little less trust where you want to have that court order. But the agreement that you reach will be properly documented and then can be registered as a court order and enforceable.
These are just things popping in my mind while we talk, Bill.
Yeah.
What's the implication if indeed there's been some history of violence that has led to the demise of the partnership, of the marriage?
Yeah, well, that's why I mentioned the safety issue, because that's extremely important. And what's developed is there's a series, part of the training of mediators is they use a series of what they call screening measures. And this involves an inquiry with the parties, say it's a husband and wife. Usually that's done separately. So there are private meetings by the mediator with one and then with the other. And the mediator will go through various parts of a checklist to see if this is a concern that either party has. But one of the wonderful things about mediation these days, Patty, is you can do it in separate rooms. You can do it on the phone. You could do it online. People do not have to be in the same space. This is happening. I know our colleagues in Ontario, and we'll have one of them with us Tuesday night who's working with us. They do this routinely. They do mediations where the parties are on screen, but they don't have to feel unsafe by being in the same place. And this is one way of avoiding that kind of either feeling intimidated or actual intimidation. So we are very conscious of that, and the mediators are trained in how to deal with it. We want peaceful conflict resolution, not anything else.
It's a very emotional time of life, obviously, when the marriage is going to be dissolved. When I speak with my mediator, can anyone else be in the room? Like, can I have a friend or my brother or my sister or any other support friends to be there with me? Because some people, it can be absolutely overwhelming.
Well, certainly that's something that can be discussed. That's one of the screening measures, is to find out if the person needs a support person. Now, one point I'll make, Patty, and it's a very, very important one. Mediation does not mean that lawyers are not involved.
Oh, no.
If you think about it, people kind of need legal advice to figure out the parameters of what kind of an agreement they could reach. You know, what's my best outcome, what's my worst outcome, that kind of thing. And so we encourage people to get legal advice before they come to a mediator, particularly if it involves something complex that, you know, might be a bit overwhelming without that advice. And even if people don't get the advice going in, when there is an agreement, it's standard practice to ask that people go to get what we call independent legal advice from a lawyer who will review the agreement to discuss with them how they feel about it, what the realities are, and give them some advice on the pros and cons. Maybe the lawyer will say it's perfect. Maybe the lawyer will say, I think you should go back on this issue. We don't know. That's a private thing. So one of the supports is legal advice. Now, as regards having other people in the room, again, that's something that would have to be discussed with both sides, because often that's a family member. Mm-hmm. And as you know, Patty, as supportive as family members can be, they're not always helpful when the other person's involved. And so case by case, most mediations do just involve the parties talking to the mediator, but mediators are not opposed to having lawyers in the room as well to help. In fact, sometimes it can help a lot.
I'm sorry if it feels like I'm bouncing around, because my mind is just, actively participating in this conversation. When we talk about custody and or visitation, do mediators speak with the children separate from the parents to, try to understand the family dynamic?
They can, yes. some of our mediators, and a lot of them elsewhere, have training in various programs which prepare them to talk to children. Usually that's done with the consent of both parents because, as I say, this is a voluntary process. So to the extent to which you involve children, say teenagers, will vary from case to case and from child to child. But if the parents are agreeable, the mediators are trained to do that. There's a program called Hear the Child, which originated elsewhere, but several of our mediators are trained in it. And that's exactly what it's about. How do you get the child's input in a way that's safe, respectful, confidential, to the extent that it can be, and then allow that in some way to come to the parties as a factor in the mediation. You don't want to catch anybody off guard. It's not a surprise thing. But obviously, if the children have something to say that's important, then it may well be appropriate to bring that to the parties in the mediation. So yes, that can be done.
Bill, you mentioned people can avail of mediation virtually. Can they also attend virtually this information session next week?
Yes, we have it available online. And I can give you a website, Patty, where people can go for more details on that and to get the link. It's a Zoom link. Our organization is called FIDRIA, which stands for Family Dispute Resolution Institute Atlantic. It's a little bit of a word salad, but www.fdria.ca. That's our website, and all the links there will bring you to that. Now, if anyone wants to attend the public information session on Tuesday night in person, we have about room for 40 to 50 people. They should register beforehand so they will have some idea of the numbers. And again, that same website will give them the link to do it.
Bill, I appreciate making time for the program. Good luck with this, what sounds to be a very helpful session.
Yes, and Patty, we may have one of our mediators actually call in and speak with you if there's time on Monday.
Sure.
Talk a little bit more from the mediator's perspective how they approach it, because they're the hands-on people. I'm just part of the group promoting it. And so that'll give a little more information for anyone who's interested.
And just for your own background information, it's not like you're just promoting this event. You actually have experience in this arena, legally and otherwise.
Oh, yes.
Right.
Yes. I'd say between our board members alone, there's probably a grand total of 50 or 60 years of experience with both family law and mediation. We do, by the way, Patty, we do have a public mediation service in the province, been around for a long time, called Family Justice Services, and it's free, and it's been used very successfully by many, many people. One of the problems with it is, of course, it's a public service, it's a bit overburdened, but secondly, they don't deal with all the issues. They deal with family support, and they deal with parenting, which are very important issues. They don't deal with property. So that, for many people, is a serious issue they need to have settled around the same time.
Bill, I appreciate your time. For folks who are interested and they're in and around town, please register by going to fdria.ca. You'll get an email address there so you can confirm your attendance. It's next Tuesday, November 25th, 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. at the Hampton Inn on Stavanger Drive here in town. Bill, thanks for your time.
Thank you, Patty. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Bye-bye. That can be very helpful because, you know, if you've ever known anybody involved in a divorce and the lawyers are involved, it can be frustrating, lengthy, and costly. Let's get a break. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Just based on the conversation we just had with Bill English, talk about the Family Mediation Public Information Session. A couple of people have called wondering what the website was because apparently I speak quickly. Okay. It is www.fdria.ca. So www.fdria.ca. There you go. Let's keep going. Line number 2. John, you're on the air.
Hello, Patty. I just wanted to give you a little heads up, and I just got a call there from Via Rail, actually, saying that my bank card was used to purchase a ticket, so I figure it's got to be a scam, right? And it's a local number, by the way.
Yeah, they've done a lot of real spoofing magic here in the recent past. So they're just simply saying that your bank card was used, and what do they want you to do? What's the prompt they're asking you to do?
Well, they're asking me to press 1 and give them a call. Of course, I didn't. I just hung up and whatever, right?
Right thing to do.
So I thought I'd let you know. It's a new one to me. I haven't heard that one before.
No, I'm new to the Via Rail scam story. But, I mean, just between myself and you and people listening to the show, if it catches you off guard and it's got anything to do with your social insurance number, anything to do with your banking information, including your credit card number, hang up. If it's a problem with your Visa or your MasterCard, your American Express, or with the Royal Bank, hang up, call your credit card company. Call your bank to verify that your account is okay. But never give anybody anything over the phone unprovoked. Just do not do it. It's a scam.
Okay, Paddy, appreciate that.
Thanks, John.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Welcome. Bye-bye. It's just relentless. Just non-stop. Like, I don't even know why we have a landline any longer, but the only calls that ever come in on that landline are either pollsters or scammers. That's it. That's the extent of landline action. I suppose I should probably ditch it. Oh, on that front, you know, a bunch of my pals who are more savvy than me, they don't even have cable television anymore or satellite services or what have you. They strictly deal with streaming. It makes a lot of sense to me, and I know some of the streaming opportunities, but if you have some suggestions about how I and my family can maybe save some money and get away from our current traditional setup regarding how we watch TV, and it gets me access to the things that I actually like to watch, then please do. All right, let's go to line number 1. Caller, you're on the air.
Hello.
Hi there.
Hi, Petty. The gentleman you were talking to about the Family Dispute Resolution Week, you have a phone number for him?
I don't know if I have a phone number. Let's see here. They don't give me a phone number, but let me just pop in the website and see if there's a phone number there. What kind of questions do you have for him? I'm just curious.
Grandparents' rights.
Oh, that's a good question. All right. See, contact for this crowd is no, it doesn't give us a phone number, period. It's simply an email address.
Okay, could you give me the email address, please?
Sure. It's info, I-N-F-O.
I-N-F-O.
At
FD.
RIA. .ca.
.ca.
Yep.
Well, thank you very much, Petty.
My pleasure. All the best.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye. That's an interesting question. I suppose, and I really don't know much about marriages dissolving, but I do know there's possibly a question there about visitation rights and parental and grandparental arrangements that are probably part of a divorce. So that's an interesting question. I never even thought of it, to be honest with you, and I wish I had, because there'll be plenty of people that are listening to the program this morning that are parents of a son or a daughter who's going through a divorce and are wondering what their rights are insofar as access to their grandchildren. And it might be a very different relationship between the parents and the kids versus the grandparents and the kids. So that's a good one. I wish I'd posed that to Mr. English while we had a chance, but hopefully that particular caller gets the information required there. And again, that's coming up next Tuesday at the Hampton Inn on Stavanger Drive from 7 to 8:30. So if you're so inclined, please do. If you want to attend in person, they want you to email that exact email address I just used to let them know you're coming. They have possibly 40 or 50 seats available, but then there's also an opportunity to join via Zoom. And you go to that same website to get the Zoom link there so that you can participate from afar if you're interested and or so inclined. Let's get a break in for the news. Don't go away.
You're listening to a rebroadcast of VOCM Open Line. Have your say by calling 709-273-5211 or 1-888-590-8626 and listen live weekday mornings at 9 a.m.
Welcome back to the program. Let's go to line number 3. Say good morning to the Liberal member for Waterford Valley, the shadow critic for transportation, infrastructure and public procurement. That's Jamie Corrad. Jamie, you're on the air.
Hey, Patty, thanks for having me on today.
Happy to have you on today.
Yeah, I just want to have a couple quick things to chat about. One's a 24-hour snow clearing, and then I want to touch on seniors as well. Just right off the start, I mean, I think the safety of Newfoundlanders, Labradorians is a top priority for everyone that's elected in this House of Assembly. And I did want to thank our operators for the fantastic work they do. When people are told to stay off the roads, they're the ones that are out cleaning it. So making it clear. So I just wanted to mention that. Just wanted to clear something up. I mean, contrary to what Minister Penton's comments were, we didn't cancel 24-hour snow clearing. There was 24-hour snow clearing from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. Staff were called in. So managers were constantly checking the weather to ensure that staff were in the vehicles, ready, out clearing streets or salting when we have weather events. So just on this $3 million announcement, I don't believe it's going to deliver much more value, if any. They're essentially doing what was already being done. But instead of operators leaving their home to go to work, they're leaving the depot to go to work.
Isn't that a distinct difference, though?
How so?
Well, if I'm in bed and my pager goes off or the phone goes off and I have to get up, make my way to the depot, warm up the machine, do the surround check, and then get out on the road, versus I'm at the depot, I'm in my machine, I'm out doing snow clearing and ice control actively 24/7 versus being called from home. Doesn't that make it a difference in and of itself?
Well, you're not doing active snow clearing if there's no snow, and with the advancements in weather patterns and knowing what the weather is going to be, managers aren't calling staff in when snow hits the ground or when it gets below zero. They have the foresight to know what weather's coming. Yes, weather can be unpredictable, but for the majority of that time, they have staff in those vehicles on the roads. So, my point being is, the $3 million may get a little bit more, but are we getting $3 million worth of value? Because, one of the things that they had in their costing, they had in their platform, this was going to be $1.9 million, but we now know it costs $3 million, and that $1.9 million can only assume was taken from 2016. So in their platform, they said it was 1.9 million, but it's actually 3. So to me, it begs the question: what else have they not costed correctly? So what other promises have they made that are under budget that are going to cost taxpayers more? So, when the minister says himself, yes, it was an estimate. Now they had the exact numbers. That's fair. But then when we look online, we see the doctored AI Facebook posts that says there was new roads included, which I'm not seeing which new roads are included. So which is it? I can't tell if it's the updated numbers the minister said or if it's what the Facebook post said. So I guess that will connote more. And just lastly on that, Patty, the PC's election slogan was for all of us. And they're using that now in government, which, they certainly can. It's surprising, but, they're free to do that. But nonetheless, for all of us, they said they were bringing back 24-hour snow clearing. And they made those promises at the doors during the campaign. But they say they're bringing back the 14 routes, but they're not. These were already being done. Of the 392 snow routes that are in Newfoundland and Labrador. So that's about less than 4%. That doesn't sound like for all of us to me. And I've had a chat with some of my MHA colleagues. Route 360 and the Beta Spur Highway, not included. Route 220, Burin Peninsula, it's the only access to the peninsula. They were promised that at the door, not included. No mention of Labrador, Southwest Coast, Niagara Peninsula. So it's just, I applaud them for trying to do more. But if we're going to spend $3 million more, let's add new routes. Let's do something different, not do what we're currently doing.
The questions will inevitably be asked about what routes are not covered. I don't know, and nor was it announced as if this is phase 1 or step 1 or what have you. And I'll leave it up to the general public as to whether or not they think that this will enhance ice control and snow clearing operations. And just, I guess, not to quibble, or maybe it is to quibble, no one's suggesting that the plow be on the ground if there's no snow on it, right? No one's suggesting we put salt and sand down if it's +5.
Right, yeah.
So,
yeah, no, I agree. But it's, we're spending that $3 million to basically do what we're already doing. So, I'm not sure what. I think it's great that, we're looking to hire more operators. We need that. Jerry Earle from NAPE said, recruitment and retention is a challenge. These operators, certainly the mechanics, are used over multiple sectors. So that's going to be a real challenge to get these people in.
I don't think anyone disputes the challenges with hiring, but I'm not so sure there's an industry or facet of life where people aren't experiencing challenges in hiring, from tech to healthcare to education to heavy equipment operators and up and down the line. I think that's an understood amongst the general public. Certainly, I've mentioned it several times here, and it's not just rate of pay and competitiveness, it's also about seasonal work. Now, I would like to know a breakdown of these 50 new operators. How many would be permanent full-time, so consequently have some summertime work, or how many are simply part-time operators to be hired for the winter season? I don't know, but there is apparently a breakdown.
No, exactly. Yeah, no, and there's more details to come, so it is lacking a bit of details. But I understand you've got to get the announcement out. You've got to get these people hired. So, look, I'll give the Conservatives, provincial Conservatives, time and room. They've got to learn their departments and get their feet under them, I should say. But if they're going to make these announcements, let's make announcements that are impactful, and let's spend the taxpayers' money wisely. And again, before we go, I want to mention just for the seniors. So the Seniors Advocate released a report November 20th, just recently, comprehensive, profile on the well-being of seniors in Newfoundland and Labrador. I believe it's over a 100-page document. And some of the positive findings, they did say that about 88% of seniors report satisfaction with their lives, and 84% feel connected to their communities, which is great. For the last 10 years, our Liberal government had a number of impactful and successful programs. We're waiting to learn and hear back from the PC government. Again, give them some breathing room, but we need to know what programs they're going to do or even build upon our programs. They can call it the PC Helping Seniors program. I don't care what they call it, but we had a couple in particular, a couple of things we did, created a dedicated department for seniors. The Seniors Wellbeing Plan, which included Aging Well at Home grant, the Caregivers Benefit, and we had the provincial home repair program and modification program. But the one I wanted to zone in on particularly here was the Aging Well at Home grant. So that was $400 that seniors that qualified could get for a number of things. It could be taxi cabs to places, help with cleaning, lawn maintenance, number of things it could be used for. So $400 doesn't sound like a lot to some, but I can tell you that these seniors, and certainly in my district, it was massive. And we did it during the campaign, say we would increase it to 800. So that's one I'm calling on the Minister of Seniors to now, take immediate action. We've heard from these seniors. I mean, there hasn't been, I don't think, a day, Patty, on your show for the last, decade, or certainly the last few years, where seniors haven't come up the cost of living. We all know that. I don't need to repeat that. So, I'd really like to see the Minister of Seniors step up here, get these grants out. Again, use the ones we had, call it something different, whatever you want to do. But we've got seniors struggling, and we need action now, and not when House Assembly opens or next month or next year.
Appreciate the time this morning, Jamie. Thanks for doing it.
Perfect. All right, thanks for having me. Take care.
You're welcome. Bye-bye. Look, I mean, again, I just noticed out of the corner of my eye, Barry Pettin's in the queue, who was the Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure. So, if anything has pragmatically changed with the amount of ice control and snow clearing that will happen 24/7 versus the assertion from Mr. Korab that nothing has changed, we'll let Mr. Pettin speak to it. And this is not some sort of, here's a inside baseball heads up to the minister, because I just said it out loud anyway, and I'm sure you heard it. When we talk about the 50 new operators to be hired, 50 additional operators to be hired, there was apparently some sort of breakdown between part-time and full-time. Those numbers would be interesting to know. And what that $3 million actually covers in full is something else that we need to know. In addition to that, is 14 routes, okay, but people have told me about a variety of areas where they live that are not covered by it. Are we looking at phases of introducing it to more and more parts of the province? If when, what does that schedule look like? Are we talking year over year, or what is the plan there? So let's get a break in. When we come back, plenty of show left for you. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 2. Rob, you're on the air.
Good morning, Patty. How are you today?
Great today. You?
Not so bad. It's Friday, I suppose. I just want to give the government a total thumbs down on their process of how you go about doing anything in government. Because half the numbers, you can't get a hold of anybody. They say you have to send an email. I'm not an email type person. I know how to send an email. I'm not, that dumb. But I had an indiscretion with the courts, or with the law, and I had my license suspended. And I've been swimming in the last 2 weeks trying to get through to the driver's license, to get my driver's license reinstated. And I spent the better part of 10 and a half hours on hold, mostly, going through these places. And I got a call. I called yesterday again, and they told me, you got to send an email to one of the departments. I said, well, can I call them? And they said, no, they don't have a phone number. you have to send them an email. So you can't actually talk to anybody in certain departments. And I think this is absolutely ludicrous, especially for, most people around, they just want to talk to somebody for a second. And it's not going to take, like I said, I've spent a good day and a half just on hold, pretty much. And I just think it's ludicrous that the government thinks that they're servicing people better by putting out this BS.
Okay. Do you need an email address or something for the Department of Motor Vehicles?
Oh, no, I finally got it.
Okay.
I finally got it. But what she told me yesterday was that I should have been told this on the first day that I called in. And they did not. They just left me on hold for, like I said, 2.5 days for various amounts of time. So, nobody else's times matter. They're just doing what they do. And it's really frustrating to think that the government is doing better by, they're cutting services and stuff like that, and it's only going to get worse. And it's just absolute BS that, that the government thinks they're doing people better by sending them off to a email registration where I still have not got a call back. I sent an email out, and still no call back, still no message back, or no nothing.
Yeah, I mean, getting to speak with anybody at most levels of government and most levels of corporate Canada is extremely frustrating. There's a couple of companies, and here's a couple of things I don't understand their strategy here. If your customer service is excellent, if people have an easier time to speak with a human being, what do you think the likelihood is of more people coming to that company to avail of their services? What do you think the opportunity is to retain your customers if they have a good customer service experience? Because the services themselves, let's just say telecoms for example, the service itself is very, very similar insofar as what you get and how much you pay, but customer service differences make a huge difference in how companies operate, how many new clients they have come on board, and how many people stay with them long term.
Oh, no, absolutely. Like I've had other, with hydro and stuff like that here, like, they cut a pole off here, put a new pole up and everything like that. And I've got lines hanging out all over the place, and they're flopping in the wind, and you can't get a hold of anybody. And I actually called hydro, and they said you can't get a hold of them because it takes too long. It's just, but my biggest concern was with DMV here, because the left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing, and the government can't even tie their shoelaces to make this work better. So, how are we supposed to be happy? And like, so dealing with the DMV, so I'm assuming that's why there's such a rise on, non-registration, people driving without a license properly and stuff like that. It's just totally frustrating that I went 1.5 years on this and still no joy. It's just totally frustrating.
Generally speaking is, and unfortunately feels like it always will be, but such is the nature of the behemoths that are government. Anything else before I take another call, Rob?
No, I'll leave it at that. I don't want to carry on too long. I know you got another important speaker coming on, so you take care and have a great weekend.
You too, and your call is important as well. Don't forget that.
Okay, thank you very much, Patty.
Thanks, Rob. All the best.
Okay,
bye-bye. Let's go to line number 4. Say good morning to the PC member for CBS, the Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure, Barry Pettin. Minister Pettin, you're on the air.
Good morning, Patty. How are you?
Doing okay. How about you?
I'm good, thanks. Patty, I just wanted to call you. I know there's been a fair bit of conversation about the reintroduction of 24-hour snow clearing, and I just heard MHA Corab on as well, and MHA Loveless has been out on it as well, and many of the public, and it's fair game. I mean, they got a job to do too, and the public got concerns. I think what I needed to reiterate, and I've heard some of the concerns, When I announced the other day, it was a reintroduction of what was cancelled in 2016. So basically, and it was based on then that study. Those routes were based on the study that was done in 2009. Now I could have took the winter and reviewed that 2009 report and got more work done, obviously up to date work done, and probably added to the list or added to the the 2016 list and what have you. But we wouldn't have had the opportunity to implement 24-hour snow clearing this year. So I figured the best decision we discussed it was to use 2016's list as a starting point. Build on that list, and I've made it clear many times, several times publicly, and I'll make it clear again. This is not the final list. This is where we're starting to. We're going to add to that list. It's kind of like a test run too, Patty. We got to get staffed up. We got equipment. We got salt purchases that are in place now. But it's kind of knocking the kinks out. And next year we're planning on adding to that list. In the meantime, so those people who are looking for the routes added. This is not a final list. Next year they may very well be added. But in the event you hear some people looking at first responders and ambulances and what have you, we will provide escorts. And from 10 to 4 in the morning, if need be, plows will be called out. And contrary to what MHA Corab said, that comparison of being sitting at home or sitting in depot just makes no sense whatsoever. You got laps on people getting in. Plus, you're not called in until 6 centimeters is on the ground. And they don't call them in when the first lake gets to 6 centimeters because, unless you got a storm coming, which is different altogether. So people in those areas are looking for coverage. They will still, we'll still call people in when the need arises. And if you need an escort, that'll be provided as well. So our whole goal was busy roads. And, Patty, this was driven for a lot by what we heard at the doors. People were concerned. That was one issue. That issue never really went away. And it was tied into our bigger Safer Communities initiative as one of our planks. And it was, when I announced it today, I think it was a great announcement. And most people are generally happy about it. And you can't go wrong. I'll take all the criticism in the world if it means making our roads safer for people to drive on in the wintertime. And if people are just criticism for that, well, I'll take it. No problem. I got no issue whatsoever.
Okay, Minister, so the assertion is nothing's changed. For the additional expenditure, they're already covering those 14 routes 24/7 or whatever hours as described by Jamie Corab. So speak directly to that. What is the distinct difference? Is as I couched it, it's different for someone to be at the depot or in the plow or in the salt truck versus to be at home and have to be called in. Is it any different than that?
No, actually, Patty, I listened to your commentary, and you're pretty well bang on. Look, when you're in the depot and it starts snowing, you're called in immediately. There's no washboard effect. The snow is not sticking to the roads, and it's not beaten down by other traffic going over the roads. You're getting they're ready to roll and out the door. If you're at home, you're probably in bed. You got to get up. You got to go get dressed on whatever. You got to clean the vehicle up. You got to drive to the depot. You got to start these trucks up. That takes at least an hour. You just don't start them up and go. You got to warm them up. You got to make sure they're cleaned off with snow. I always say it's roughly a 2-hour lapse time. And Patty, it's not me saying it. I talked to many operators out there, and they told me this. And as you might recall, me and you had this debate over years ago when it was cancelled, and I was dead set against it back then. And so you base it you're basing it on as facts as possible, and our staff are well versed on this stuff too. And we all generally feel the same. It's going to definitely improve the safety on our roads. And the one thing I want to add too. When you're clearing off the main arteries, for instance, you're doing Outer Ring Road and you're doing those busy arteries, veterans, manuals, access, what have you, if they're up to scratch, when the crew comes on 4 o'clock in the morning, because 10 to 4 right now, there's no one there, they're only on call, they won't have to go back into Outer Ring Road. They can go and concentrate on other roads that were not cleared through the night. So this will help. Overall, we'll see an improvement in our snow clearing operations, even on the roads that are not in the 14 busiest routes. This will help. Overall, we'll see a bigger improvement in our snow clearing operations throughout the province. And like I say, we'll expand upon that. Ultimately, we should have everyone should have safe roads to drive on, even if you're not on this list. I'm a big supporter of it, and that's my commitment.
Minister Pettin, do you have time to be put you on hold, take a news break? Because I have a few more questions.
Yeah, sure, Patty.
Okay, let's do that. Minister Pettin on hold, news time. Then we'll speak with Minister Pettin, and then Robert's in the queue, and then whatever you want to talk about. Don't go away.
The Tim Powers Show. Join the conversation weekday afternoons at 4 p.m. on your VOCM.
Welcome back. Let's rejoin Minister Pettin on 4. Minister, you're back on the air.
Hey, Patty.
So inside the 50 new operators, I think everyone concedes that it is going to be a task to fill all 50 positions. What's the breakdown of permanent full-time versus seasonal?
25 permanent full-time, 25 seasonal. And Patty, I just want to add to that. we've gotten a great uptake in applications actually, and very pleased. And we're encouraging people to continue to apply. But it's been very encouraging. I know people were wondering about that as well. And to be honest with you, I wondered as well. You don't know till you put it out there. But so far so good. And hopefully with the screening, we'll be able to get a lot of operators on the road. So it's very very encouraging.
So inside the fleet of, I think it's 551 loaders and plows, will that be enough to satisfy the 24/7 play that you're proposing?
Yeah, right now we think we got ample equipment on being able to do that do those roads, and it's something that we're adding on to it. In Western Newfoundland, the previous 2016 plan called for 24-hour snow clearing, 5 days a week. We're expanding that to 7, so all routes will be getting the 24/7, which is the reason why we need the extra parts on people to fill the gap. And something else on cost too, Patty. I know people have asked about that. I'll fill that in for you too. Salt has tripled in price, and plus with the extra staffing required moving to 5 to 7, plus wages has increased since 2016 because that was based on 2016 dollars, and the overtime rates and that it was a bit of fine tuning had to occur, and that's where the extra costs come into play.
Insofar as public safety for the motoring public, part of it is, of course, snow clearing and ice control, but it's also cell phone coverage. So, if I'm in an emergency situation and I'm down the Burin Peninsula with 0 bars on my cell phone, that means that I can't even avail of emergency services, nor can I call the depot about some weather condition. So, what's the plan to add to snow clearing or winter maintenance operations with improved self-service? Because they do have a relationship.
Yeah, no, that's a question. That's a good point, and it's a point that gets across the province, and we always talk about the coverage, cell phone coverage. I think, Patty, right through. I live in CBS, and I get issues in my own community. So I think that it all goes hand in hand, and it's a very valid point. And we use the 511 app as well, of course, for people to get updated road conditions. But if you get no coverage, how can you access the app? So.
As his cell phone breaks up.
Yeah. There you go, yeah.
In addition to that, people can talk about the speed cameras, and I'd like to have the results of how many tickets were issued this year, at what value monetarily speaking. But it's also the number of vehicles on the road that do not belong on the road. They're not road safe. They're not road worthy. People will refer to mandatory inspections at whatever, 100,000 K or X number of years as a cash grab. But there's also a public safety component. Your thoughts on inspections of vehicles? Because if I drive home today, I'll bet my check I drive by at least 1 or 2 that you could just by eyeball them know that they do not belong on the road.
Yeah, no, Penny, that's a really interesting point. It's contrary to a lot of people that don't know, but my father was a mechanic. He's passed away now, but had his own garage in later years. And I, on a personal level, I always thought inspections were a good thing, and they were phased out over the years. And it's a debate that comes up many times, and there's one that I have no problem having with my own colleagues. I think that I personally believe I tend to agree with what you're saying. What kind of process to be involved to bring inspections back is a good point. Do you have them after 5 years? Because right now it's only on the sale of a vehicle, if I'm not mistaken. And otherwise, we could probably look at tightening those rules. Because to your point, it's a very good point. Actually, some of the vehicles shouldn't be on the road, and I can't argue that point. Actually, I tend to agree.
I appreciate the time this morning. Anything else you'd like to add before we let you go?
Oh, no, Patty. I just wanted to offer some clarity on the issue today. And if anyone, if you have any concerns, I'm always available to, if you want any further conversation, reach out any time.
Oh, very last one. So you say this is phase 1. So is there a projected addition phase 2 for next winter? Is that something that's been crafted?
Not yet. We get staff now doing reviewing all routes over the winter and traffic volumes and what have you. I will almost I'm pretty certain that we will be adding to that list next year. But this is, we'll work out. Hopefully, we'll get through the kinks this year. But I'm expecting next year that list will expand, and we'll fix any errors or any problems we had this year. Hopefully, we'll work on it and refine it and improve it for next winter.
With the 44 new plows being ordered, how quick can they be delivered? Because we talk about things like water bombers. You're looking at a decade before you get a water bomber. How about a snowplow?
Yeah, we're getting most of them now. We've got, if not all of them, pretty well ready to roll this year. So it's good. Actually, when I only announced the other day, I was at Flagship Depot and there was new plows beyond me. So we're very optimistic we're going to have a decent fleet this year. And we're also, like everything, we're looking for mechanics as everyone else are. Seems like heavy equipment technicians. So if any heavy equipment technicians are listening, they should apply within too, because it's a demand for those positions as well within government.
Is the current fleet of 551 ready to roll right now, or how far down the process are they of calibration and maintenance?
We're looking at, I think we're 70-75%, which is more than enough to run, and that will increase obviously. So we got according to officials I've been briefed on. We're more than ready to roll and get on the roads and provide safe driving conditions.
Appreciate the time, Minister Pettin. Thank you.
Okay, Paddy. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye. Let's keep rolling here. Let's go to line number 3. Robert, you're on the air.
Good morning. Hey.
Morning to you.
How are you?
I'm okay. How about yourself?
Well, if I was any better, I'd be in a coma.
Well, I don't know if that constitutes better, but anywho, what's on your mind?
Well, I got my phone bill there the other day, and I noticed on it that 911, I got charged for that. No, I don't know if it was, I thought it was free. No, it was nothing to argue about or anything. I just figured I'd phone you up and see if you knew anything about it.
Not that I know. I mean, I don't think I've ever been charged, although I can't remember the last time I called 911. But in this province, there's not supposed to be any charge for calling 911.
Yeah, no, I never ever called it. No, I just, like my total was there, like what I owed, which what I got to pay this month. And then right underneath it, there was 911, and there was nothing there to argue about or anything else of that you could complain about or anything else of that. But I just wanted to find out, like, if it was charged, like, I thought it was free.
Let's see here. Okay, so apparently there's a monthly fee of 75 cents. How do I arrange?
Yeah, that's just, I got charged with, would say, right?
Yeah, and I think that's all because of the move towards enhanced 911 service province-wide. So I think maybe there is a 75 cent fee at this point. Me? I think there is a 75 cent fee. And that's not for calling on 911. That's what we're all paying to expand to what I think they call enhanced 911 service.
Yeah, okay, yeah. No, I just want to know, that was all.
No problem. Appreciate the time. Anything else you want to talk about?
Yeah, you have a good day, buddy.
You too, pal. All the best.
Okay, sure.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Bye-bye. Yeah, so part of that's the thing. All right, final check-in on the Twitter box for me today anyway. We're VOCM up online. You know what to do. And just that reminder, over the course of the weekend, I don't do a whole lot of doom scrolling on social media. I'm usually pretty good with getting back to people with direct messages and what have you. So whether it be on Facebook and or on Twitter, over the course of the weekend, it's maybe unlikely that you'll hear back from me, and apologies in advance. All right, here, final break of the morning, but today is a good day for you to have the final word. If you're in and around town, 709-273-5211. Elsewhere, toll-free long distance, 1-888-590-VOCM, which is 8626. We're taking a break, and then we're coming back. Welcome back to the program. A pretty popular email since speaking with Minister Pettin was, why didn't I ask about why this route is left out, why that route is left out? Because that could have been the entire conversation. You know, whether it be Bayvert Peninsula, Burin Peninsula, Great Northern Peninsula, Trans-Labrador Highway. I mean, to satisfy, and understandably, concerned residents who have questions about why their area has been left out of this current 24/7 14-route proposal. I was tempted to ask it, but then the jeopardy for me is if I don't cover every single area for every single listener and every single resident, then it'd probably go nowhere. The formula that was applied, and as has said the minister, both in the announcement out in Foxtrap, and I think reiterated today, is the routes were decided upon based on traffic volume. So I suppose inside the 14 routes, maybe they have proven to be, based on whatever traffic flow analysis, that they are the busiest. That's not to say that less busy routes are undeserving of 24/7 snow clearing. I would never suggest that, because I don't believe that, so I wouldn't say it. And the question about mandatory inspections. I brought this up repeatedly over the years, and I'm like you, I'm torn. If it indeed turns into and feels like and smells like a cash grab, then nobody's interested in supporting government public policy that is, in essence, a tax grab. People refer to things like, what's an example? It's sugar tax, right? And it didn't really change behaviors necessarily. With the inspection bit, though, like, there's a reason why we have regular inspections of school buses and heavy equipment and whatnot, because it's a public safety issue. And I'm not so sure I'd be the only one driving around, whether it be on the Northeast Avalon or anywhere in the province, that just by eyeballing a vehicle, you can tell it doesn't belong on the road. It's not roadworthy. It's simply not safe. So I guess we have to do the benefit or the cost-benefit analysis of, if I have to pay for an inspection because my vehicle is X number of years old or has X number of kilometers on it, how do we weigh that against the possibility for this not safe, not roadworthy vehicle to be out on the roads, and maybe because of the unsafe condition of the vehicle is involved in a collision simply because of the nature of the vehicle? Brakes are shot, they're going around on baloney skin tires, whatever the case may be, because you see it as much as I do. I mean, it's not, you can have some spots of rust and maybe a ragged-looking muffler or bumper. Doesn't mean you're not roadworthy. But, I mean, we've heard the stories. Remember back there was a guy who went to the Canadian Tire around Clarendon to get an oil change and left, and unbeknownst to him, the metal screws used to put back on one of these protective plates was not in place. So what was he driving around with? Plastic zip ties to hold it on. Now, that's maybe not an excellent example of a not roadworthy car, but the vehicle pretty much, in essence, fell apart. Under very little travel, couldn't get it up to highway speed, the vibration was unbelievable, so that car should not be on the road. If you look at a car that may indeed be old, doesn't mean that it's not roadworthy. So I get a lot of pretty heavy swats when we bring up that potential for inspections, but I guess that's the question. Do we become safer on the road because a vehicle that does not belong on the road is taken off of the road? I don't know, I'll leave it up to you, but you know, I'm leaning towards I'd rather be safe than have to suffer coming out of pocket for inspection if indeed I keep a vehicle long enough that requires a set inspection. Rob's call about the inability to speak with somebody directly is a good one. You know, even if we talk about at the federal level and we see the proposed job cuts through attrition and otherwise to see some 16,000 jobs minimum lost over the course of the next 3 years. The question there is, with the population growth and with the federal service public sector growth, the public sector grew not commensurate, way more than the population grew. Did service improved? I would suggest Canadians would think, no, they didn't improve. I mean, even look at some of the real heavily populated departments like CRA. It's becoming more and more difficult to speak with somebody. The wait times are extraordinary. And even when you get in touch with someone at CRA, based on their own internal audit and work done by the Auditor General, Karen Hogan, there was a significant percentage of people that got misinformation directly from the source. So no one wants to see anyone lose their job necessarily, but we have to have a legitimate question as to whether or not adding on to the public sector has seen services improve commensurate with the amount of money spent. And I don't think that's necessarily the case. Then with the inability to get someone to answer the phone, I'm not even exactly sure why that is. You know, is it long-term, even subconscious decisions about, you know, counter service will at some point in large part be a thing of the past. We'll be doing our business and our communication online with government. It really feels like that's where we're going. I mean, the digitization of government services is already pretty prevalent in society, so it kind of feels like that is exactly what's going on. And can it be frustrating? Sure. Then you bring it to the conversation of speaking with someone at the corporate level. Some companies do a way better job than others. And then, we hear people make reference to, I was speaking with so-and-so on the phone representing whatever company, and you could tell they weren't from here. And then we blame that communication on the lack of training or understanding of English on the person you spoke with, as opposed to pointing the finger of blame and concern at the corporation that moved the jobs offshore. For me, that's where the blame lies. And any concern lies exactly right there with the company. They made the conscientious decision to, for the sake of saving money, to offshore those jobs. But we generally have it as a finger point of blame at the person you were speaking with. They got hired to do the best they could with whatever training, whether it be haphazard or otherwise, but it's the company. They did it. The company put that circumstance into play. They made the decision. So I guess sometimes understanding exactly who should be to blame is probably a pretty important part. Got a few notes about, why we're not talking about what's happening in Alberta. Man, there's lots of wild stuff happening in Alberta. And we're happy to talk about it. In the broad scheme of things, the way that governments are willing and wanting to use the notwithstanding clause is becoming problematic. You talk about democracy and freedom and all the other rally cries that people offer. The use of the notwithstanding clause is becoming very, very commonplace. It's not designed to be that at all. It's not there to keep government scrutiny at bay. That's not how we should be accepting the use of the notwithstanding clause. Whether that be with legislating teachers back to work in Alberta, using the notwithstanding clause so there was no opportunity for an appeal at the courts over the course of the contract, which in this case is 4 years. Is that really how we want governments to operate? At one point we're told that so-and-so is a dictator or so-and-so is an authoritarian, and we don't apply the same descriptors just because it might be the party that you promote. I think if we're going to be honest with each other, notwithstanding clause, Emergency Measures Act, all of those things, we should measure each party, each politician with the same metrics as opposed to, well, I kind of agree with them, so it's okay, because we know how the world works. At some point, governments will change hands. The politicians will be different. You might not align with what they propose or their policy. But if we allow all of a sudden the fairly frivolous use of the notwithstanding clause, eventually, in short order, it's going to be something you completely disagree with. So it can't be about party. It can't be about just whether or not you think that piece of legislation is something that you like. Because eventually, another government is going to protect that legislation with notwithstanding clause, and you don't like it. And then you'll have a completely different stance on it. So this is not about the Liberals or the Conservatives or the Dippers or anybody else. This is about a very infrequently used potential that's available through the Charter. But let's be real here. Just because you like the policy that's being protected by the clause doesn't mean that somewhere in the future they'll use it for the exact opposite reason and you'll be furious. So I think we should be a little bit more vocal about how politicians and different parties are using notwithstanding, because I think in our collective long-term best interest, it's probably good to clamp that down a little bit. Also, people wonder why not talk about pipelines. Well, there is no pipeline being proposed in this country as of now. You hear Premier David Eby from British Columbia in the news, and he's furious. He found out via the media that there's actually ongoing talks between Premier Scott Moe in Saskatchewan, Premier Daniel Smith in Alberta, and apparently some agreement in principle with the Prime Minister about an oil pipeline that will flow into northern BC. You would think, based on all the obvious authority and jurisdictional authority, that if they're going to talk about a pipeline that goes to BC's north coast, that including the Prime Minister of British Columbia might be a required partner, because there's a lot to that. Let's check it on Twitter for the final time of the day and the final time of the week. Oh, this fellow was on hold, got cut off. Can I wish Gertie Mullins a happy 80th birthday today? The kids call her Nan Nan, so happy birthday to Nan Nan Gertie Mullins. Hope you have a great day today celebrating your 80th, and hopefully a chance to spend some time with your family, especially your grandchildren. Final check on the email. She's a former employee here, Gertie Mullins? Oh, I remember the name now. That's kind of before my time. Gertie Mullins, former employee at VOCM. Fantastic stuff. Gertie, hope you have a great weekend. Email address openon@vocm.com, which I won't be checking over the weekend either. All right, good show today. Big thanks to all hands. We will indeed pick up this conversation again on Monday morning. Right here on VOCM and Big Land FM's Open Line. On behalf of the producer, David Williams, I'm your host, Paddy Daly. Have yourself a safe, fun, happy day. We'll talk Monday. Bye-bye.